As I'm sure it does with many people around the world, it's this new year that has made me think a lot about what we want from the future as a family here in rural Thailand, what I want from both myself and for the content for the channels. And it really got me to thinking how this journey started when I was a lot younger and I had a little bit more hair back then. And I arrived in Thailand around, just over 16 years ago. It's been now 16 years. I never expected this is how life would unfold, or this is where we would be, or even that I would stay back then. But one of my biggest inspirations of coming here was Alex Garland's The Beach, both the book and the movie. When I was growing up in the UK, I always imagined that one day I may live on a beach. I kind of aspired to that. When my parents asked me what I wanted to do when I was quite young, at the age of like 15, I said it was to have a bar on a beach. It wasn't just the idea of a beach though, it was the idea of freedom, separation from society somewhat, just living a non-conventional life. I actually dug up some old photos of myself from when I first came to Thailand, so it was the day that I was leaving. I think I was around 21. Here I'm saying bye to my granddad and leaving the house for the first time, checking in at the airport. And in my hand, just before I'm getting on the plane here, you can see a copy of Alex Garland's The Beach. And that's because of what a profound impact it was on me, that story, the idea of escaping normal life and living an adventure. And of course, one of the first scenes in the movie as well is him arriving in Bangkok, and anybody that has been to Bangkok knows that that scene is pretty close to the reality. Staying in some dump of a hostel perhaps and walking around the streets of Bangkok for the first time is eye-opening. It is wonderful, like it's exciting. The smells, the people, the atmosphere, albeit it's changed over the years, of course. I mean, today it's a modern city. There's still a lot of charm, still a lot of beauty to it, but those initial scenes in the movie really do capture that adventure. And when the plane landed, that's where I was. A young guy that was traveling and backpacking and trying these foods for the first time and didn't speak the language back then, of course. I'd never met Thai people before, but I was looking, I guess, for my beach. I was really ready to escape, and so my mindset was in that I just don't want to think about anything and be free to do whatever you want. Ahead of you there's romance, there's adventure, there is seeing places that you've never seen before. There's a whole world of possibility, and I knew that I was going to be, it wasn't just a holiday, it wasn't a couple of weeks, it was going to be months, if not years, that I would be able to travel. And so I'm sure many people have had the same experiences of Thailand as me. When you first arrive, the initial city shock, and then maybe jumping on a minivan to a beach or an island and finally seeing some of the paradise beaches that Thailand has to offer. I have told the story before that one of my first times arriving here, I actually left my wallet on a minivan and ended up in the middle of nowhere at some Thai nightclub. I can't even tell you where it was, with no money, just my phone, and some Thai guys, I found a picture of them here. They invited me to their table. I didn't speak a word of Thai at the time. They paid for all the drinks, and then they even let me stay at their house, which was not a house, it was just a room with like 8 mats on the floor. And at first I thought, these guys are going to do something to me, and you know, my initial thought was like, can I trust these people? But they were completely cool. They let me stay on a mat on the floor. It was one of my first positive experiences of Thailand hospitality, and I'll never forget it. It was an important marker in one of the reasons why I decided that I wanted to learn the language and I wanted to stay here. But getting back to the story of the beach, of course, the adventure begins, and you never know how anything is going to unfold for you. I've got to say, the book was a lot darker than the movie. If you've ever read the book, it's a lot darker and a little bit more sinister than the actual movie. The movie's a bit more romanticized. My life would probably been a little bit more on the romantic side, traveling around, you know, meeting people, playing guitar, saxophone with people on the travels, drinking a lot, smoking a lot. These were, you know, good times. And just like in the movie, the protagonist, something happens, he discovers a map to a special place where there are no worries. You can escape to a commune with people there that are living on their own terms away from society. And obviously I wasn't looking for something directly like the movie. I wasn't trying to replay the movie as a person. Similar things did happen to me though, you know. Just as the protagonist in the movie fell in love, I did fall in love. I did end up actually building a bar, although it wasn't on the beach, it was walking distance from the beach. And so I kind of lived out that dream, but eventually the illusion of paradise falls away. It is the revelation in the book and the film of the community that it's held together by a thread, and everyone is trying to keep this illusion of freedom and escape alive. But it's crumbling and the cracks are appearing. For me in my jazz lounge, the cracks that appeared were, addiction, financial strain, and I was desperately trying to keep the illusion of the fantasy alive. But even playing on stage every night was taking its toll. It's hard work, like performing and chatting with people all the time and living the Groundhog Day. And eventually what starts off as paradise becomes a nightmare, which is exactly what happened, of course, in the book and the film. Nightmarish things come to happen, and the more you try to force the illusion of paradise and sustain it, the more it crumbles, and the more it's almost like reality will not allow you to stay in that position for too long. We build a dream and it becomes our prison. And I've also seen this again and again with friends and people that I've met along the way. You can't stay in one story, especially if you're a young man, forever and inhabit that identity forever. You have to grow, you have to evolve, you have to have breakdowns, mental breakdowns, go through addiction, go through heartbreak and hurt. Friends die. I've had friends die along the way, good friends that have passed away, that have died on motorbikes, or they've just died in various ways, like some through addiction as well. And so there's tragedy, and these are things you have to kind of face in life to evolve and to become the next version of yourself, to kind of face them head on and not like hide the body, in the tent, like they have a sick friend in the beach where they hide him out in the tent. He's been bitten by a shark, but they don't want him in the fantasy, in the illusion, because he's a reminder of negativity, of the fragility of life, and he's moaning and screaming, and he's kind of putting down the vibe sort of things, and they want to maintain the illusion. And so in life, that's why I've had to face the death of friends and face the loss of businesses and the loss of relationships in the past, and nearly the loss of this relationship too. Like addiction it was a part of that, not something that I regret or I think, I wish that not had happened, but parts of life where I'm glad that did happen. Just like in the movie, not so much the book, but the protagonist learns something through the situation and evolves as a person to realize that you can only escape so long. And so the protagonist learned that this kind of lifestyle wasn't sustainable. You would have seen that there was no children on the beach in the book or the movie as well. So the idea of like legacy or the future generation or teaching future generations was not there. It was all about maintaining a state of like perpetual hedonism and perpetual youth in a way. But the protagonist learned something, and for me, I guess I did learn something. This was a number of years ago now. I learned that I couldn't sustain that, and eventually responsibility was required. And just like the protagonist went back to normal life and work at the end of the movie, I actually did end up getting some kind of normal work, and I worked in corporate for a while, and I had my first child. And as many men will know, when you have your kids, it really does change your mindset a lot. In fact, I'd say it's one of the most transformative experiences of my life, having my kids. And the reason I'm telling you this story and going through this is because it's the new year, and I got to thinking how all this happened. How did I get here? But I also feel like I've come full circle. And instead of finding the beach out there with a community, out on a literal beach, I feel like what we've done as a family is created that beach, obviously as our little cottage and our little farm, and having our children is our community and our meaning. So I feel like in a way I found my paradise. It just didn't look like I thought it looked like. And many long-term followers of the channel will know this. Bits of this story I've told over the years, And right now I'm not really into telling my story anymore. This is the first vlog I think in a while that I'm talking about my past and my story. My channel isn't really focusing on other people's stories in Thailand and how they got here and what they're doing. And I guess I'll conclude as well with the idea of the beach and how it really isn't about Thailand or travel or a secret island or anything like that. It's really about the mistake of thinking you can escape life instead of learning how to live it. At the end of the day, the people in the beach, they're not looking for freedom. They're looking for a place where they escape responsibility, or responsibility doesn't follow them. But the problem is responsibility, life will always catch you up. Your problems come with you wherever you are, of course. And I think what the book shows isn't that paradise doesn't collapse because outsiders find it. It collapses because the people inside it refuse to deal with the reality. It's really a warning about confusing distance with meaning. So you don't escape society by going somewhere remote. You just rebuild the same problems in a quieter place. It's about internal transformation, I guess. There's still something in me that is still alive from that person, that sense of adventure. I'm sure it's in all of us, no matter how old you get. You don't, from the inside, you may look old on the outside, but from the inside, you know, I've met people that are 75 years old, but from the inside, they have a spark, a lightness, a certain energy that is young, you know. It's not immature, but it's young, and so from the inside, we can still be young. And for me this year, one of my resolutions is to follow that spark a little bit more and to enjoy the fruits of everything that has happened and everything that has been built. I mean, I'll tell you my resolutions because that's kind of the end of the story when it comes to the beach. You know, number one is I want to take the farm completely energy independent, and so this month I've already booked in for the solar to be fitted on top of the cottage. And it's a full system that's going to take us energy independent. We've decided to crack on and get that done. Second resolution is traveling with the channel. I want to travel more with the channel. I've met such interesting people doing this channel, guys. I can't tell you how mentally healthy it's been to chat with so many interesting people with interesting stories. And so that's what I want to do. And I have this amazing opportunity that so many people would love to have, is that I can travel with the channel, is that I take you guys along, and it kind of allows me to both travel and meet these people. It's an excuse to meet these people and see these places, and so I want to do more of that. I'm going to be doing more of that on the channel. That was my second resolution. The third resolution was about my kids. I just want my kids to eat healthier. I want to make sure I'm teaching them skills for life, skills for survival, for making money, for taking care of their bodies, eating healthier, you know. And that also involves, another part of my resolution is I want to cook more. I'm really enjoying cooking. I've never cooked in my life, guys. I've never been a cook, but since my dad visited and he taught me how to make pies, it got me into cooking, and it's so meditative and so like, you're not thinking about stuff, you don't give a shit about anything, you just cook. And then I guess the fourth and last part has just been, it's really time to enjoy life. I think once you pass your midlife, if you get through your midlife crisis, which I think is very real, for a lot of men, you know, if not a midlife crisis, but there's a midlife transition where who you used to be, like the complete nutter, drinker, partier, is kind of gone. That old identity is gone, and you're a new identity, and it's hard to let go of the old identity and let go of your youth sort of thing and move into a new identity, because at first you don't trust the new identity. You don't trust that you're going to have fulfillment there, or it's going to be as hedonistic or as pleasurable or as fun. I think that this is what Jung talked about as well with midlife transition. You don't quite trust who you're growing into, so you kind of cling on to who you used to be. And once you've made it through that and you get to the other side and you realize, whoa, this is actually way better than when I was young, because when I was young I was completely stupid. And so now you can enjoy life in a different way, and that's what I'm looking at now. I'm like, you've got every opportunity to enjoy life and every opportunity to be happy with life, and so make the most of it, because it ain't going to be around forever, and at any moment it can be snuffed out as it has been with friends. So it's grab it by the balls, guys, and enjoy it. And I'm going to make this year an adventure, I think. That's my plan. I hope you're all well. Thanks for being part of this journey, coming along and watching these interviews with people. So Happy New Year to you. I hope you've got your resolutions. Drop me some below of what your New Year's resolutions are. I'd like to read those. And take care, guys. And the next video, I don't know what we'll be doing or where we'll be, but hopefully it'll be a lot of fun.